Alrighty. So, folks, I am terrified of heights. Roller coasters scare the crap out of me. Climbing ladders, balconies. Hell, I'm the kind of guy who drags his feet getting on a Ferris wheel, which people laugh at me for. It's okay, though. I'm fine. I'm fine. Needless to say, the research and delivery of this presentation is a form of immersion therapy for me. Friends, tonight I am, of course, talking about bungee jumping. We'll get to that later. We'll take a look into its history, the people who brought it to life, and how it spread all over the world. Now, first, on April 1st, 1979, this crazy Englishman by the name of David Kirk jumped in a top hat and tails, strapped two 120-foot-long elastic ropes to himself, and leapt off Bristol's Clifton Suspension Bridge, which is the most British-sounding bridge ever, plummeting 240 feet down to the surface of the water beneath. This was the first modern bungee jump. And yeah, it happened on April 1st, and it wasn't an April Fool's joke. He actually did it. He had not tested his apparatus beforehand to see if everything was safe. And even in this delightful sepia tone photo, you can see it's pretty high. So that's what he did. He did say in an interview later, this is actually him recreating the jump. I think 20 years, this is the 20-year anniversary, so surprise, he lived. I'm not going to do the accent, but this is what he said. We hadn't tested it or anything like that. We were called the Dangerous Sports Club, and testing it first wouldn't have been particularly dangerous. Duh. So, of course, say fourth, fifth, something like that. Thank you. So, Mr. Kirk and his friends were the founders of the Dangerous Sports Club at Oxford. Think Jackass and Monty Python, sort of together. Other activities they got up to were skiing down the Alps on a piano, as you can see here. Skateboarding with the bulls in Pamplona, not running, they didn't get the memo. Dangling from helium balloons and flying makeshift gliders. As you can see, David's newly discovered activity neatly falls under the definition of dangerous. Now, he did the jump, he survived, and his friends pulled him back up. They got caught by the police and paid a 50-pound fine. Easy peasy. 1979, inflation, still money, not that bad. Now, let's talk about a Kiwi. Not one of those. And not one of those either. What a delightfully hideous little bird. I'm a big fan. I love Kiwis. I think they're awesome. Really? Thank you. Kiwis are typically flightless birds, but Chris Sigelkow, this guy, also did a pioneering jump in 1979 off the Pelorus Bridge near Marlborough in New Zealand. Well, he didn't fly, really, but he was certainly falling with style. And he said, once again, I'm not going to do the accent. The New Zealand accent is impossible. I thought, I'm going down to Nelson. There's a lovely little bridge there called the Pelorus Bridge, and I'll try and do it my way, in terms of creating a bungee that gives me maximum recoil, because I just knew that I wasn't interested in dropping down and being stopped. I knew that the thrill would be ricocheting back. He took paracord, for those of you who are familiar, cut off the outside sheathing and used that as his elastic. He and his mates decided to try a test, thinking themselves prudent men. They filled a potato sack full of rocks, and then they fixed the cable to the potato sack full of rocks and chucked it over yonder bridge. The sack plummeted to the bottom, hit the water, exploded, and rocks went everywhere. Chris, of course, threw caution to the winds and did the jump anyway and survived. Yeah, I don't know, like bag of rocks, human, somehow different. Chris in turn hooked up with his buddy A.J. Hackett, who went on to be another godfather of bungee jumping. He was actually the first to do a bungee jump from the Eiffel Tower in 1987, as you can see here. And he has a fabulous mullet. I miss mine. It's been a long time. Chris and AJ decided to jump the Auckland Harbor Bridge, different jumper here, but beautiful photo. some 130 feet from the deck to the water. They rode in 2 vans, jumped out with all their gear, and when no one was looking, got set up. And just as they were about to do their jump, the police showed up on a boat and hailed them, saying, "Whatever you're going to do, don't do it." AJ turned to Chris and said, "Did you hear that?" And Chris said, "Nope." And they jumped. So interesting, right? Police or not police. Always ruin era fun. However, y'all probably remember this from the first slide. We want to go back to the beginning. Who started all of this? If one looks elsewhere on the globe, you will find the inhabitants of Pentecost Island in Vanuatu, who have been practicing the Nagal ceremony for centuries, or land diving. Doesn't that sound fun? This is what they jump off of. Isn't this incredible? They hand make this out of sticks and vines, and this gets up to 100 feet tall. They will climb up to the top, tie vines from trees, from banyan trees around their ankles, and jump off. And this is where they land. They plummet straight down, head first. The vines snap taut, and they bounce into the side of a hill. If you look closely, you can see that they kind of churn up the dirt at the bottom to make the landing a bit softer, but it's still a hell of an impact. Imagine a bungee jump into water, and then imagine dirt. Ouch. Yeah, it's metal. It's super metal. The younger, less experienced lads will jump from lower down, while the ones with the most seniority go all the way up to the top. As I said, the heavy metal points truly go to these guys because they're only using what the gods themselves grew from the ground. Safety gear be damned. These centuries of technique and practice go into this. They've been doing this for hundreds of years. Check it out on YouTube. It's unreal. It's awesome. So, for those of us who are terrified of heights, or chicken, like me, we need to ask the question, why? Why do people do this? Like many of the wild things that human beings have been up to throughout history, the answer seems to always start with, because we can. For the peoples of Pentecost Island, it's an ancient tradition that coincides with the yam harvest in April and May. The higher and cleaner the jumps, the better the yam harvest. So, good yams. Makes sense. Yeah, science. Yeah, 100% science. Yeah, science. It's also incredibly epic. I looked at hundreds of these photos, and I am going to go back home and look at more because it's just amazing. So, also, I think we can all relate to this, relate on one level or another. When you're up high somewhere and you approach a ledge or a cliff and you look over, what does your brain say? Jump. We even have a fancy name for that. It's called l'appel du vide, the call of the void. It would seem that human self-preservation instinct might have a couple of errors in the code. Clever little buggers that we are, we figured out a way to indulge that impulse without serious bodily injury, mostly. So now, when we ask ourselves the age-old question, if the king decides to jump off a bridge, do you follow him? For all of these folks that we've been talking about, the answer would be an emphatic yes. But they didn't follow in anyone's footsteps. These are trailblazers right before you. This group of individuals from totally different backgrounds and cultures from all over the world figured this out on their own. And it's fascinating to think that they've all come up with this independent of one another, all over the globe. This all happened before social media, before the Twitters, the GMs. They didn't get in touch to share ideas. They just came up with it, and they formed a fascinating little group to come up with this. They were unified by the desire to be more daring, more wild, and more adventurous than anyone else. There's part of that in all of us. Would you take the jump? The answer could be yes for you too. The influence of this bizarre activity has spread all around the globe. People saw what Kirk and Sigelcow did and said, sign me up. And that seems wild to me. You can find it everywhere. Join in the club if you like. Go for a thrill, jump off a bridge or some other high structure, or maybe you could be the next discoverer of an extreme sport. One point of comfort to us all, if you do decide to go bungee jumping in this modern world, I guarantee that the people running it spend much more time making sure their gear is safe and secure. Can I get an amen? There we go. That's it. That's it. We wouldn't want to have bad reviews on TripAdvisor, would we? Hell, maybe I'll be tempted to join you if you pay me a lot of money. So let me know. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, let's raise a glass to Chris Sigelkow, the Pentecost Islanders, the thrill seekers, pioneers, and all of the crazy people on this planet taking a leap of faith.